All right, everyone, get ready, because today we're really diving deep into something that, well, kind of sounds too good to be true, right? Like turning $5 a day into, wait for it, $1 million. A million. We're going to break down this source I found, and it basically says you can get super rich, like really wealthy, just by starting small. Honestly, when I first saw this, I was like, no way, this has got to be some kind of lottery dream, especially since it was in another language. But don't worry, I got the translations all figured out, so you can just sit back and relax.
Oh, this is going to be good. Let's unpack this thing, see if it actually makes sense.
Right, so they jump right into it, saying the secret is investing consistently, especially in the stock market, and then letting this magical thing called compound interest do its thing. They make it sound so easy, like a recipe, like follow these steps and boom, financial success.
Yeah, compound interest is often called the eighth wonder of the world for a reason,
Is that right?
Yeah. Imagine this. You get returns not just on what you put in at the start, but those returns, they start making their own returns too.
Whoa, so it just keeps building on itself.
Exactly. Like a snowball, but instead of snow, it's your money multiplying.
Okay, that snowball thing, I can totally picture that. So it's not just about what you put in at first, but it's about those returns becoming like little mini investors themselves or something.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it now, and this could really add up over time, especially with what they talk about next. They keep mentioning this thing called the S&P 500, like it's some kind of financial gold mine.
Yeah.
So for those of us who don't speak, Wall Street fluently, what is this S&P 500 thing all about?
So think of it like the VIP club of the U.S. stock market, right?
Yeah.
It's a list of 100 of the biggest companies out there, publicly traded, everything from tech to healthcare to energy, you name it. When you invest in the S&P 500, you're basically saying, I want a little piece of all of you.
Ah, so instead of putting all your eggs in one basket with one company, you're spreading it out, kind of like diversifying your breakfast or something.
Yeah, exactly. Diversifying.
Yeah. Okay, I can get behind that for sure. So less risk that way, huh?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so back to this whole $5 a day thing. This source talks about putting your investments on autopilot. They make it sound as easy as setting an alarm, but for your money.
Oh, yeah. Automation can be a game changer when you want to invest consistently. It takes all the emotion out of it. Like, you're not tempted to skip a month because you're feeling unsure about the market or whatever.
Right, takes the guesswork out of it.
And the best part, there are apps for that.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of them. You literally set it and forget it. Your money just goes straight from your bank account to your investments. Like magic. Easy peasy.
Sign me up. Okay, I'm sold on the concept, but let's talk numbers. This source, they're throwing out some big ones. They say if you put in $150 a month, which by the way is basically that $5 a day, right, for 40 years, with a 10% yearly return, you could hit drum roll, please. Over $1 million. Is that even real? Is this one of those things that sounds too good to be true?
Well, here's the thing. The market, it's not a crystal ball. We can look at how it's done in the past, get some clues, but there's no guarantee for the future. It can be a wild ride.
So you're saying, like, don't go quitting your day job just yet?
Not just yet. The S&P 500, it has had some great years, but those returns aren't always going to be the same year after year. You got to be realistic.
So no get-rich-quick schemes here.
Yep.
This source actually says that a bunch, that you got to be patient, think long game.
Exactly.
Like, instead of spending money on stuff you don't need today, invest in your future self.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's about shifting your mindset. And speaking of shifts, this source talks about diversification a lot. And it's not just about money.
Oh, I love that. Those connections, like how advice for one part of your life, it can actually apply to everything else too. So for someone who's like new to investing, what's diversification all about? And how do you actually do it?
Okay, so imagine you're building a house.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just use one material, would you? You need strong foundations, right? Sturdy walls, a roof that doesn't leak.
Got it, got it.
Investing is kind of the same. Instead of putting all your money in, say, just stocks, you spread it around. Stocks, bonds, maybe some real estate even.
Oh, like commodities, gold, stuff like that.
Exactly. It's about creating that mix. So if one area takes a hit, your whole portfolio doesn't crumble.
So it's like a safety net, spreading the risk to build something stronger, more stable.
Exactly. Think of it like a team, right? You want all-stars, but you also need a good bench.
Okay, that makes sense. Building that A-team portfolio. The source is really into the S&P 500. Are there other ways to invest, or is the stock market like the holy grail?
The stock market can be great, don't get me wrong. It has potential.
Yeah.
but it's not the only game in town, and there's always risks.
Right, like it's not guaranteed, right?
Exactly. Investments, they can go down too, not just up.
Okay, yeah, that's important to remember. We're talking about growing your money, but it's not magic. You have to be smart about it.
This source, it's a good intro to compound interest and the idea of investing for the long haul, but it doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty of risk.
So a little dose of reality is needed, right? Like, don't go betting the farm.
Exactly. Things change, markets fluctuate.
And that's where diversification comes back in,
Right.
right? Spreading things out to kind of soften the blow if things go south.
Exactly. It's like you wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. And speaking of eggs,
You're going to say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, aren't you?
it's true.
It's true. All right, so we've talked stocks, diversification. What else should people keep in mind?
Well, besides the stock market, you got real estate, bonds, even starting your own business is an investment.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It all depends what you're into, how much risk you're cool with.
And how much time you have, right? This source talks about 40 years, which is like, wow, that's a long time.
Time. That's the other ingredient in this whole compound interest thing.
Yeah.
It needs time to work its magic.
Okay, so patience is key here. Like, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's more like a, I don't know, fine wine or something. Gets better with age.
Exactly. It's like planting a tree. You don't see the results overnight, right? It takes time to grow into something big and strong.
I like that. I need to remember that one. Okay, so we've got stocks, diversification, patience. What else? What are we missing?
Ah, the big one. The one nobody likes to talk about, but it's super important. Inflation. $1 million today, that ain't going to buy you as much in 40 years.
Right, because everything gets more expensive.
Exactly. You got to factor that in.
So it's like a moving target, that $1 million.
You got it.
Wow, inflation. It's like that sneaky thing that eats away at your money over time, right?
It's a silent but powerful force. You know?
Yeah.
That's why investing isn't just about saving. It's about making your money work harder than inflation so it grows over time.
Okay, that makes sense. Got to outrun that inflation monster. So we've covered a lot of ground here: compound interest, diversification, even inflation. But let's bring it back to our listeners. If someone's out there thinking, all right, I'm ready to try this investing thing, where do they even start?
Start small. You don't need $1 million to invest, right? This whole thing, remember, $5 a day, it's about getting into that habit, putting a little aside consistently and letting it grow.
Small steps, big results, right? Like every journey starts with a single step or something.
Exactly. And remember we were talking about the S&P 500. Look into something called index funds or ETFs that follow it.
ETFs, yeah, those were those baskets of stocks, right?
Yeah, you got it. They're already diversified for you. Really good for beginners.
So it's like instant diversification without having to become a stock market whiz.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And they usually have lower fees than some other options,
Mm-hmm.
which is great when you're just starting out.
Nice. Gotta love those low fees. We also talked about those online investing platforms. Are those usually the easiest way to get started with this kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Most of them are super user-friendly these days. You know, they
Right.
got all these tools and tutorials, and you can also start with a small amount, no pressure.
So you don't have to be like a millionaire to even open an account.
Nope, not at all. But it's important to do your research, compare the different platforms, the fees, the features, that kind of thing. Make sure it feels right for you.
Right, gotta do your homework. And I guess if someone's feeling a little, I don't know, lost or unsure about all this, talking to a financial advisor is always an option, right?
Absolutely. Think of it like having a personal trainer, but for your money. They can help you figure out your goals, what kind of risk you're comfortable with. It's really valuable, especially when you're first starting out.
This has been amazing. We've gone from $5 to $1 million, explored the magic of compound interest, and even faced the inflation monster head on. I feel like I learned a ton.
Me too. It really shows you building wealth. It's not about getting lucky. It's about making smart choices consistently over time. Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. It all comes back to that question, what if you started today, just with $5? Where could you be in a few years? It's pretty exciting to think about.
It is the power of that first step.
And that's what the deep dive is all about, right? Getting you thinking, exploring, and hopefully inspired to take action. So until next time, keep those brains engaged, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.